All right, hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. I'm starting a new stream that I'm going to call Hack and Play that I'll do on Fridays at this time. And the idea is to take um, different projects and play around with them and try new things. And this week we'll be working with the Workspaces module in Drupal core. This was added as an experimental module in 8.6 and is still experimental as far as I know. And if you're unfamiliar with that process, Drupal 8 added this new, or with the release of Drupal 8, a new policy was adapted, or yeah, adopted rather, for creating new functionality in Drupal core, and it's the experimental modules process, where a new module is added to Drupal core. It's considered experimental. It has an alpha, beta, release candidate, and then stable. And modules have to hit stable within a certain amount of time in order to be considered part of core. There's been some exceptions to this, which is the Workspaces module and Migrate. Neither of those hit the stable milestone within, I think, like 3 minor versions was like the boxes it had to check. But Workspaces is kind of like a really integral part of where Drupal wants to be for content management. So we'll play around with that today and see how all that goes. So from the change record, we can see that there's a little graphic where there's the idea that you have a live site, and live is the always present, and then you have copies of the live site which you're working on in parallel. So you have the main website, and then you have all these drafts that are being managed, edited, and worked with, and then you're able to launch those. And it even has a scenario of this where you can take it, you create a workspace, you work through the content flow, you can approve it and then push it and publish it to live. And I try to find the documentation, and the documentation is essentially the same thing as the change record release. So not too much for documentation on there. So if you do like to write docs, this would be a great opportunity for contributions. But so we'll get started by just doing. So we're going to go ahead and create a new environment for this. So I have my Drupal working directory, which is where I put all of my, things that are Drupal related. And I'll go ahead and create a new composer template. So I have a sites directory, and this is where I have a bunch of my random Drupal based projects. So I'm going to do composer, create. I'll make that a little bit bigger. So we'll do composer, create project, and it's Drupal recommended. I'm just going to hit tab up because I know I have it previously made. So we're going to use the recommended project, and where this comes from, in case anybody doesn't know. So if we were to go on packages, this is a subtree split, and it's the recommended composer template. So in it, it's very basic, just says require composer installers, which allows us to say, hey, put Drupal modules in the right place, composer scaffold, project message, and core recommended. So we're going to go ahead and require this. And actually, I want to take, I want to get a development version of Drupal core. So let's actually go back to that GitHub repo and look at the branches. So we've got 9.1.x, 9.3.x. Okay. I want to use the latest Drupal core head, so that way we can see the latest and greatest of workspaces. So I'll change this to be 9.3.x, and I'm going to call the directory workspaces dev. We'll say workspaces dev. Cannot find Drupal. Oh, that's right. So I need to append dev at the end of it. So we're going to create the new project and get working. Just take a minute because it's going to, since it's a dev release, it's going to clone a bunch of stuff. So it takes a little bit longer. Thanks. I'm glad you're excited for the hack and play. I realized that my Wednesdays kind of were the same topic of like upgrade tooling from Drupal 9 to Drupal 10. And that wasn't all too exciting. Well, it's exciting, but it gets repetitive. And then Sundays is just simply test. So I wanted to do something on Friday that's different every week, in different topics. So we have our site. So let me get into Workspaces. I'm actually going to remove the root Git repository. And we're going to get ready to launch the site. Normally, I'm going to open this in PHP Storm real quick. And to install the site, I'm going to use the quick start script, which I'm not sure how many people are familiar with it, but in Drupal, oh, I don't remember when it was added. I remember I helped contribute to some of it. We can actually find out by looking at the code. So there's actually a mini console command inside of Drupal called Drupal. And let's see if I can, oh, great. We can see here. So 2018. Oh, see, there's even my name. So provide a single command to install in one Drupal. This was back in 2018. Oh, this is 3 years ago already. Wow. So 3 years ago, we got a command into Drupal core that lets you do a quick start, and that quick start will install Drupal and it will launch the PHP built-in server. As you'll see here, there's now a generate theme command that lets you do theme generation. I plan on doing a video about that another time. So while that's indexing, we're just going to go ahead, and you have to run that command from within the doc root, I believe. So let's try this out. So we'll go PHP, core, scripts, and then Drupal. And we've got our Symfony command. So let's do quick-start. So as you see here, installs a Drupal site and runs a web server. It's not meant for production. It might be too simple for custom development. It's a quick and easy way to get Drupal running. And I accidentally copied that entire thing. So what it actually does is that is taking forever to index. So I'll go show you where the commands are. If you go into core lib core, inside of command, we have the quick start command, and there's all the various options. So we could have it install with the umami demo, which is exactly what I want to do. So add argument is install profile. Otherwise we get the standard profile, which doesn't have as much in it. And so yeah, so what this ends up calling is our install command, which will run the installer with SQLite. So you do need to have SQLite on your machine for this to work. Most people do, or should. You don't need to have MySQL or Postgres or anything like that. You can just run this command and get a site up and running with no extra services. All you need is PHP and SQLite. And then the server command just runs the built-in PHP server. Somewhere in here, we boot it up and we find a dynamic port and execute the, there we go. Yep, so in here we call PHP, we launch the router and all that good fun. So while PHP Storm's indexing my new site, I will go ahead and run. We'll go, again, it's inside the doc root of Drupal. We've got PHP, core scripts, Drupal, demo, umami. It's quick start is the command with the umami argument. So for those who just joined in, I'm doing a quick setup, a quick start install of a Drupal site with the umami demo. The umami demo gives us like a recipes blog or magazine website. And we're going to install the core Workspaces module to test creating like a staging version of our website in the main website, which is really neat. It also works with Layout Builder, so you can customize your layouts on different entities, and that gets put into revisions behind the Workspaces. I have yet to fully, let's see if I can get that to go now. I have not actually played with Workspaces yet. I've just seen some demos. If you've been watching any of the Dries notes over the past few years, since this was added, it's always been highlighted as a feature. And one of the standing areas of where Drupal's going to, this idea of like managed content and segmenting work areas. One really cool video that I saw. Oh, before I even go there, PHP Storm or JetBrains, I want to give thumbs up. One improvement that recently happened. When you have a new project, it auto detects the Drupal installation for you and the version. For the past however many years, you've always had to click enable Drupal integration and then go find it. Now it just pre-populates and guesses for you. So that's really amazing. But a lot of the times, to get back to Workspaces, the one video example, it showed like a, let's say in the United States, the Super Bowl is going to happen. And you need to have versions of content ready for if either team wins. So you actually have your teams writing content for if I'm from Wisconsin, the Green Bay Packers win, or if the Seattle Seahawks won. Like you have two sites that you need to have ready to launch at a click of a button once it's announced who wins. The Workspaces module would let you do that. You could have your live news site and then have two workspaces going, one for whoever won the team, and then you just push a button, publish that site, get different look and feel, etc. So this is taking a while. Oh, there we go. Now it's installing the translations. If we just did the standard install, this wouldn't take as long, but like I said, the Umami demo sets up some default content. If we look at the site's default files folder, I bet we'll start seeing some of the images pull in. There we go. And actually, since, as I said, it installs a SQLite database, I can double click on the SQLite file and it will open up inside PHP Storm as a database source. So I can start to explore it as well. So if we wanted to look at the node table, we can see that, yep, things were populated. And I also wanted to do it this way so we can more easily look at the database when we're working with workspaces. So this is just getting the translations because the Umami demo is multilingual, which I hope that, don't open Chrome. I hope that Workspaces supports multilingual sites. I know I've experienced some weird oddities with multilingual and having a lot of revisions. Oh, shoot. Well, we can just log in this way. So admin, copy the password. All right, so now that I'm in here, let's go to extend. And we'll find the Workspaces module instead of searching through. Well, actually, I want to make sure the Layout Builder is installed. Awesome. So if we search for Workspaces, or go here. So as I said, it's an experimental module. So it shows up under Core Experimental. And we'll hit install. We're going to get a warning saying an experimental module is provided for testing uses only. It actually provides a link to the core page that explains experimental modules. As I said earlier, this was added for Drupal 8 as a way to incubate new functionality in core, and they're all detailed in here. Like I said, Workspaces is beta. Certain things are going to get ripped out, like I'm pretty sure field layout, because it hasn't made it to stable yet. And this explains the entire process. So if you're curious, go ahead and search that, but I'm going to click continue so we can install it. And it's going to download the translations. So, all right, what I'm going to do is first kind of click through the user interface, and then we're going to go explore. So right now I already see that I have a toolbar up here, and it lets me switch my workspaces. Before I get too far into that, I want to see if there's a configuration form. So in all from the Drupal module listing, modules can say their permissions, which I'm going to open that in a tab. We'll look at the help page and the configuration page and start exploring. So for permissions, pretty generic. Bypass content entity or entity access, create a workspace, delete, view, own. So an administer, pretty generic for Drupal, at least, pretty generic permissions for, CRUD with ownership. So actually that's really interesting. So that means that you could have your own site workspace that colleagues couldn't see. So you could have your own private workspace. So each author has their own workspace they're in, and only content editors can see all the different ones and be able to manipulate them. That's actually really interesting. So let's look at the help page. Again, there is work for getting online documentation, or this kind of documentation page is improved inside Drupal, but it links us to this help page we've already been to. It doesn't have as much. And what I said before, this would be a great area for contribution. Anybody can contribute to the docs by logging in, clicking on the edit, and waiting for it to load. There we go. So anybody could come in here and help start expanding these and explaining how workspaces, you can leverage and use workspaces. Okay, let's go to the configuration. So based on this form, as somebody who's been doing Drupal for a lot, we see list, manage fields, form display. It's a fieldable entity. Switch to stage. Let's click edit. What happens if we're on edit for stage, the label, parent? Oh, neat. So you can actually have parent workspaces, which makes sense. So you could have stage and all your authors work off of stage and then push the stage. So for all of us developers, it's like a Git flow, I'm assuming. Let's see. It's lagging up a bit. It's possibly just due to it running on the PHP built-in browser or server. So maybe I'm going to have to switch this over to something different if it's going to hang on me. So 1 second. Let's try to... Let's do it this way. I'm going to close that and I'm going to run it my normal way. I'm just going to run the command directly. So 8080. For anybody else, like I typically run all of my Drupal sites this way when I'm working on them, is using the built-in web server, PHP-S, capital S, 127.0.0.1.80.80, and then I point to the router that's provided. The router's needed to help navigate to some of these sub forms for field UI. That's that. No fields present, so we could add custom fields. It'd be interesting to use layout builder. I don't imagine you can view it. All right, so let's go through and see if we can edit content. Now, I would imagine on the live site that you cannot edit content. You would have to create a workspace first. So let's see if that's true. Save this translation. So if I click save, all right, I would not expect to be able to update live content, but let's go switch from here. We're going to go to stage. So we're going to activate the staging workspace. So we're on stage, and I'm going to open this in a private browser for right now. So that way we have this one remaining. So let's go through, we're on stage, and let's alter the layout. So if you haven't seen the layout builder yet, now you get a chance to. So let's say that we want to change the we want to put the difficulty up here. We want to put preparation time down here, number of servings, and cooking time below. There's no easy way to flip-flop these regions. Configure section 3. We want to flip-flop this to 6733. Oh. This form can only be submitted in the default workspace. Now, I know why this is throwing an error because somebody let me know it ahead of time. So if I click save, we'll see that our changes here are reflected. And actually, if I refresh, so if I refresh the original, like the live site as an anonymous user, it's still the same. So if I go back to layout, what's happening here, or from what I've been told, is what we're managing here is all content. By dragging and dropping this, there's actually a field that stores all this metadata. But as soon as we configure a section, like we try to change part of the layout data, this is config, and you cannot manage config in Workspaces because configuration is not revisionable. So let's copy this error, and we're going to go straight into the code real quick. So I'm going to do, I did Shift Command F. So validation handler, oh, it's straight up invalidate workspace. So form state, workspace safe. What defines if it is? So this add workspace safe. So form alter. So there's a form alter that checks if we're in a workspace context. It adds the validation, which we have down here. If a form has already been marked as safe or not to submit, we don't have to do anything else. So by default, no forms are safe to submit in a non-default workspace, except for the whitelisted ones defined below. All right. So form object. So if it's a workspace form, which let's go see what. Okay, so any of the forms in workspace. If it's the search form, if it's a views exposed form, it's safe, otherwise it's not. Let's see where this class is invoked. So we're going to find usages. So new static creation, new instance creation, unclassified usages. Well, let's see. That's not helping me out too much. So let's look at where that's being called. I'm assuming in here. Here we go. So it's using the class resolver and entity operations and form operations. I see. So there's two form alters going on here. So if anything's a regular form, you can't change it because it might modify config. So that's why it won't be changed. Otherwise, there's this entity operations, which does a handful of other things we'll look at later. So I wonder if there's any issues for adding layout builder support. I'm making a note for myself because maybe I'll try to help contribute to it, or if we have time, I can go back to that as well. So to do lookup layout builder support, because to me, we should be able to submit this. But let's go through now. And the reason why this layout form submits is it's an entity form technically, but we're going to hit save. So we're in our staging workspace. I modified this to be the difficulty first, number of servings, cooking time, which the live site has prep, cooking. So I flip-flop these things. And if I refresh the live site, it's different. So now let's see what it takes to be able to publish these out. So we're going to click on Stage. Let's click on Manage Workspace. There's nothing there. Workspaces. So it says Publish Content. That's what I saw from here. What happens if I click Publish Content? There is one item. Okay, there's one item that can be published from Stage to Live. It doesn't tell me what they were, but now if I refresh this page, we see that we have the changes. Now, what's the difference between doing that one change versus going and, oh, I want to get to the live site. So right now, I showed how to do that. You have unsaved changes. Let's discard. In all reality, what that really simple use case I did could have been performed with basic content management here. So we're going to create a new draft where we're going to add a new section here. And we're going to drag down section 1 to here. Or we're going to move the recipe categories and the text to here. We can hit Save Layout. And if we refresh, it doesn't show because we have it as a draft. So if we looked at revisions, we could do, or if we do edit, I believe it's edit, we have it as, it's a draft right now. So we created a new revision for it. We could do published, save, and now it's live. So by using drafts, you can accomplish kind of the same workflow. But let's go back to my one example about needing to change a lot of content at once to match publish, such as a sporting event. I said the United States Super Bowl. So what if you needed to put out a bunch of different content? Well, it would be a really big pain to have to go through and find everything and publish, 500 different articles. That's where the staging works, because we can go through and let's say that we're going to add a bunch of content. Let's add an article. Do article 1. Just mangle in some text. Put save. And again, so if we go to articles, this is published in the staging environment, or actually it's a draft by default. Let's apply it to be published. It doesn't exist here. Let's go through and add another one. We'll add another article called Workspaces is awesome. And let's go ahead and use the media library, which I hope that's what this opens. Sweet, it does. I'm going to upload that picture, but I feel like it errored out. 500 message. Well, I don't know why that errored out. We'll go ahead and manually upload it quick. Go to media. Just gonna upload it, add an image. I'm hoping it was just in the media library. It might be due to the built-in, yeah, it's probably due to the PHP router. So we'll just go through, publish it. We want to make it a draft. So I've created 2 new articles, and again, I'm refreshing. They're not in the site. If I go to stage and publish content, we'll see that I have 2 content items. So I published, and now they're here. So that's actually pretty cool that we're able to now basically launch multiple pieces of content at once. So if you were working on a, let's say a site redesign, this is one thing that could be really cool with it. So let's say that we wanted to go to all of our workspaces, and we're going to, let's add a new workspace. We're actually going to write some code here too. I want to have some fun with this. So let's call this redesign 2021. The parents, let's just make the parent be, there's no parent workspace. And we're going to switch to redesign 2021. Let's go ahead and create a custom module real quick. I promise this is going to go somewhere and it's going to be kind of cool. So let's call it the redesign. We'll just call it redesign flag module. .info. I did directory, not file. New file, redesign, info.yaml. Name, redesign flag. Type is module. Dependencies. Drupal workspaces. This is called namespacing of dependencies. It says the workspaces module is actually a submodule of the Drupal project. It's a Drupal thing. So we have that type module. Oh, I think I need to define the core compatibility, which isn't there, and I can't remember it off the top of my head. What is it? Is it core compatibility? That's what I'm working on right now. So the question is, would it be possible to assign a different theme to a workspace than the default installed one? Technically, no. But I'm going to try something real quick if I can make sure I do this right. So let's first try before I go too far in here, actually redesign flag.module. Sorry if they're stomping, the kids are having some fun upstairs. All right, so as I brought up before, you can't save certain forms. Well, that's interesting. Oh, core version requirements. I didn't know that actually you could cause a page to randomly crash if that was invalid. That's new. So about being able to change the theme. The Workspaces module doesn't let you save forms if you're not in the default workspace. That's what happens here in this form alter. We go to form operations and we'll see here that only search forms and views exposed forms can be submitted and workspace forms. So if we were to go in and click okay, it did fail. So we'll see this form can only be submitted in the default workspace. So what we want to do is there's a way that you could assign a theme to a different workspace. So let's actually switch back to live. And we want to like we're redesigning the site in Olivero from the Umami theme, let's say. So we're just going to install Olivero, but not set it as the default theme. We want to keep the site looking as it is, which if I refresh this page, it should, I hope. Great. So we're going to try to alter the current theme based on the workspace ID. So let's go to redesign 2021. So we're in this workspace now, and if we go back to the site, we see it's all there. Now, I need to really pick my brain on how to do this. Redesign flag theme. Themes uninstalled. Theme suggestion hook. There was in Drupal 7, there was the hook custom theme, which let you define the current, like it let you change the current theme for a route. So let's go dig into the code, because what I want to do is, based on the active workspace, change the default theme on the site. So if we go to theme, and I bet it's in theme manager, and get active theme, has theme set active theme, render, let's get active theme, theme registry. There's no hooks in here. Oh, theme negotiator. I bet that's got something in it. So theme negotiator, and for everybody that is maybe hasn't really dug into the core code, interfaces have all the documentation. Defines an interface which determines the active theme. To set the active theme, create a new service tagged theme negotiator. See the example in theme negotiator admin service. Awesome. So let's look at default theme. So it reads from the config. So let's go ahead and we're going to create this now. We actually don't need the .module file. I thought that would be something still in hooks. So we're going to do source. Where is this? They put it in the theme namespace. So we'll do new file, source, theme, workspace, theme negotiator. So workspace.php. So let's do namespace, Drupal, redesign, flag, theme. Then final class, workspace theme negotiator, implements theme negotiator interface. So we have that. If I've somewhere, okay, there's the arrow, add method stubs, applies. So to do, determine active theme. So let's look at the admin theme negotiator. So does it do it? So determine active theme just has to return the name of the theme. So let's do, it's going to return Olivero, not Oliver, Olivero. So if I was working on this on a site and we were doing like a redesign, we could actually use Workspaces to test out our new theme in live in production this way. So you would name it like, you know, whatever's your company's theme name, and applies. So let's look at applies, has handler. So based on the role. So let's see if Workspaces provides a context or some kind of helper to tell you the active workspace. Workspace service provider, merger, manager, workspace association, negotiator. So it has its own negotiator to figure out what is the current workspace. Set active workspace. Workspace repository. Let's look at the interfaces because that's a lot easier to read. Load the tree, get descendants, reset cache, alias, publisher, operation, merger, manager, is entity supported, has active workspace. And get, okay, so we want to get this workspace manager service. So we will take workspaces manager. For anybody that's curious, this cog is provided via the Symfony plugin with the Drupal bridge plugin. Makes it really easy to bounce around to things. Workspace theme negotiator. So we'll have a, what is it? Public function construct. And we'll take the workspace manager interface. I know that's not Drupal coding standards, but we're just getting stuff done. So workspace manager. Let's go ahead and create our services file. So redesign flag.services.yaml. And it's services, not services. Redesign flag theme negotiator. Why is this so hard to spell right now? So class is a theme negotiator. Again, that Symfony plugin helps do all this auto completion in here too. So arguments, and I bet if I type workspace, it suggested what I needed. And then if I do tags, name is theme negotiator. Oh, sweet, it figured it out for me. I just want to go look at the default. So okay, so that's the only thing I got to tag it with. So let's do this. So if this workspace manager has active workspace, then we're going to return false. So let's get the active workspace. So workspace equals this workspace manager get active workspace. It's yelling at me because I didn't add this as a property yet. And I would match this on the UUID, but I don't know the UUID yet. So I'm going to do return false and then do a good old Drupal messenger add status workspace UUID. So what I'm going to do is find the current UUID for redesign 2021. And if that's the active UUID, this will turn on. Since I added a new service, I need to flush the cache. But this isn't really a shortcut, but it is a shortcut, is you go to cache container and you hit delete and refresh, and it's going to recompile the service container. Well, that should have done it. I thought I was going to do it. It would do it if I turned on the module. You know, your code only runs if Drupal knows to run it. And I need to go back to the live workspace. That is nice that when you switch workspaces, it at least keeps you on that form. So if you forgot you weren't in live and you need to change something. Again, it's going to update translations because we have a multilingual site. And it's one of, if you think that this is a neat concept and module, I have no problem putting this as a contrib because I could actually see this being a really big use case and something really powerful for workspaces if you're not even using it for content. There we go. So that's our UUID. So we're going to say return workspace UUID is equal to this. Now, I hope somebody recognizes the bug I'm about to create. So I didn't put any extra checks in here. So it's always running regardless if it's an admin context. So let's figure out how to do that. So admin negotiator. So applies. So we want to check, check if it's not an admin route. So I'm copying this. So if it's an admin route, and I can write, we're just going to exit early if it's an admin context. And we're going to do some good copy and pasting here. Because I don't feel like typing all this boilerplate stuff. Now I need to update my definitions. So this is one thing that's really cool and I want to show off because I always forget to. So it's highlighted and it says it's missing an argument because we added a new argument to our class. So if I hover over it and I get the little light bulb and I click Symfony YAML argument, it automatically injected the correct service class for me, or service name. So again, when people are like, oh, you pay for PHP terms, like, yeah, because I work so much faster. And this is why. So now that I've done all of this, if I go and I refresh the page, it's going to throw an error. And that error is because the service container is out of date. So this is where I am going to go back to the container cache. And I'm just going to delete it. And when that's a cache miss, whenever there's no cache for the container, it gets rebuilt. And you'll see that there's no more error. We got the updated definitions. And we have our admin theme. But if we go back to the main site, we now have the Olivero theme. And if we go to our live site, we still see the Umami theme. And if I go to stage, we have the we are back to Umami. If I go back to redesign, we have the Olivero theme. So if you think this would be a valuable contrib module, I can go ahead and post it, call it like workspace, theme. Like I think that would work is Workspaces theme. And what you could even do is manage workspaces, workflow. So we go to workspaces, not manage form. So manage fields. We could add like a text field here that lets you select the theme that should show up in a workspace and that reads from the workspace's like theme config, all of that. So, I think I will do that. Let's see if it is a project. Yep. So let's go to drupal.org project workspaces theme. That is not there. And for the life of me, I cannot remember how you create a project on drupal.org. And I don't want to open my dashboard because I have the security issues blocked there. And that would be bad to show that. So I will work on making this a contrib module that lets you specify a different theme for a workspace. So if you are working on a site redesign, you can install the workspaces module and go to town. But there's flags there. I actually have no idea what happens if you try to uninstall workspaces, or if you can. Pre-uninstall. So let's see here. Let's actually look at what happens when you do install and uninstall the workspaces module. In Drupal, if a module has a .install file, that's where all of the hooks go that are run on checking requirements. Once it's installed or uninstalled, this requirements here. So the phases are install, update, or runtime. So on install, it checks if the workspace module exists. There is a contrib workspace module. So it prevents you from installing this module if that one exists. Pre-uninstall. So pre-uninstall is new to Drupal 8. If you used Drupal 7 in the past, modules could be enabled, disabled, or uninstalled. Think of pre-install as a check for like disabling and then before it's fully uninstalled. It's really bad analogy actually, but it's the closest I have. So Workspaces Manager, it pre-uninstall. If it's supported, set revision metadata key workspace. So it does some changes to the entity definitions. Schema. So then on install, sets the owner of the default workspaces. So that's it. Oh, there's a schema in here. So workspace association stores the association between entity revisions and their workspace. So that's interesting. That's how it knows what revision belongs where. So that's like as you edit content that has revisions, if we go to node revision, you'll see that we just have a list. Oh, there is actually a workspace base field. But if we do, what's one that's got multiple? Node ID 3. Let's look at that. Where NID equals 3, you'll see we have multiple revisions for this one node revision, and actually a handful of them are marked default. And they can be all over the place. They're by default, revisions are linear. There's the default one, and then the previous one was the last version. But when you get in the case of workspaces, it's not linear. It's like a tree. It keeps going all over the place. The question is about custom entity types having to opt in. I will look at that in just a second. That's a good question. I would assume as long as they're revisionable. So I just want to refresh the schema quick. And we have the workspace table. And then we have workspace association, which since I published all the content, I want to just see what happens if we go into here. We're in the, let's go back to stage. Let's go to content. We're going to edit the about umami. We'll just make another revision. That's a draft. And if I refresh this table, okay, so we see workspace stage. And it tracks, this way we know the associations. If we were to go to redesign and edit that same page. Oh, that's interesting too, that if I sort by updated, it's tracking the revisions, so it's showing the old updated date. Or I guess it wasn't published. Oh, so it must be, I bet that's what this table is for. This content is being edited in the stage workspace. As a result, your changes cannot be saved. Let's see where that message comes from. Public message, test. So it's a constraint that's being executed, but when? Oh, entity operations. Entity form alter. Okay, so this is in the entity form alter. Remember, if you remember, in our form alter, this prevented us from saving forms, and then this alters the entity form to integrate with workspaces. So if the entity type supported, this is what we're going to look at next. I'm just going to quick open that. And so it sets it to be safe by default for supported entities. Probably because because if the entity is supported, it must be safe. So it has active workspace. It does something else. And then it pre-runs the validation. Validate, get entity violations. If the constraint is an instance of entity workspace constraint, we get the error message. All right, so that's actually really cool that it prevents you from working on this if it's in another workspace. So let's go to the next question of how do you opt in a custom entity? So I would assume, I haven't looked at it yet, but entity or editorial content entity base and core release something. Oh, really? This is that old too? This is 4 years old. It feels so much newer than that. We go to drupal.org/i. This is also another shortcut. You can do /i in the node ID and it brings you to that issue. In 8.4, it was for the workspace. We received the editorial content entity base. And what this does is it implements the revision log, published entity. It sets up revisions and a few things like that. So revisions and published. I'm assuming that this is entity type supported, checks that. So if it's not in the supported array, so there must be a list of like oh, it's like a static cache. Sorry. So if is not set in the supported, only entity types which are revisionable and publishable can belong in a workspace. So the entity class must implement entity publish interface and be revisionable. So custom entities don't have to opt into it. Technically, they don't have to opt into it. They just need to define, they need to implement, they either need to extend editorial content entity base, that's the easiest way, or at least implement entity published interface and say that they are revisionable. And when we say that they are revisionable, let's look at the node definition. So right, we have our node. When you define an entity type, you add this annotation. So inside here, we have a revision table, revision data table, and show revision UI. Let's see what is revisionable looks at, and the entity type has key revision. So that's the next part. So you need to have these defined, the tables, and then these entity keys. These are on the left is the key name, and on the right is the entity field or database column. So you'll see here that revision was required. So revision VID. So if your custom entity implements the proper interfaces and defines a revision key, you're all set. You don't really have to opt into it. You don't have to do any special opt-in. These are the same things that are required if you want to work with content moderation. Yeah, so it should be fairly easy to create a custom entity or integrate your custom entity into here. If it's not revisionable and you already have it installed, you might have a bit of an upgrade path to work with. I don't know what that looks like. I know in commerce we have that. We have an issue to make commerce product be revisionable. The only reason it hasn't really been pushed forward is there are some sites that have, like 15 million to 20 million different commerce products on it. And then if you try to add revisions to that, the database is going to go, it's not going to explode, but it's going to be a really big operation. It looks really easy to install this. To show an example, let's see, I don't want to kill the web browser, so how about I do it in here? I'll do composer require Drupal/entity for the entity module, which the entity module is a contrib that extends the entity API. And actually a lot of our work in commerce was pushed into this module. The main thing I just want to show is inside its test, it has entity module test, which has the enhanced entity module or example. So this also implements revisionable content entity base and has the same required fields. So if I were to enable the turn on the flag that let me install test modules, I can install this and the enhanced test entity type would work with Workspaces out of the box. I don't know if anybody is too familiar with the fact that menu links used to be not revisionable, and now they are. So if we look at menu link content, it now extends editorial content base, and they didn't used to be revisionable. So I guess if you want to find an upgrade path, maybe there's one in here that would update the database tables. So you could reference that. I have not tried, I haven't tried to actually make a custom entity type be revisionable yet. So yeah, so that answers that question. You can make any of your custom entities work with this. You just gotta make sure you implement the right interfaces. We worked on toggling a feature flag. Oh, I know what I wanted to check out. So I'm gonna go to the live workspace, and I want to see what happens when I try to uninstall Workspaces. And the reason I asked this, or I'm curious, is this whole workspace, like the theme negotiator for Workspaces, is neat. There's definitely other ways you could do it on your site, for like a user that has a role. The Workspaces example is like the cleanest way. Like this is like one of the best use cases for a like using Workspaces without the full content is triggering redesigns. But I don't know what happens to your site when you try to uninstall it. And the reason why I'm not sure is I've seen uninstalling modules do some really wild things, like deleting entities and content because of config references. So there is a content entity for, you need to remove your workspaces. So when you do have content installed for entities provided by a module, it will warn you and give you a link to delete them. So let's delete all the workspaces, which for the record will break my redesign flag because the UID will now change. So if I go to workspaces, so what happens when I click that? It deleted it. So I can click uninstall. And we got an error. Error thrown while performing a schema update. No columns such as entity table.type. Workspace target ID, select entity table.type. So it looks like there may be a bug here. I'm going to copy this. Yeah, I'll just copy that error. I'm going to make a new scratch file that's plain text. Oh, so it's trying to make node it's okay. So it's missing an as. Here it looks like. No column entity table.type. Yeah, so it looks like, oh, there is no type on here. All right. So it's trying to find the bundle. Because in nodes, so in node, we have the type. We have the type column. And it looks like it's trying to insert deleted data. Field workspace ID. Oh, what's this table name? Into field deleted data. Bundle revision ID. So yeah, so there's a bug here where on uninstall, it's assuming that the revision table has a type key. Let's see if there's a bug for this. Drupal.org project Drupal. And that was on workspaces.install. The uninstall. So maybe that's not even a workspaces bug, but I'm just gonna report it at least. No such column entity table.type. Let's search for it and see if there's a bug. Nope. So I'm just gonna create a new issue, and then it can be triaged. Error when uninstalling. Let's search for uninstall. I want to try to do better at finding something. So let's look in this giant list for workspaces.module. After closing workspaces, improve the visual indication, layout builder overrides, prevent content from being deleted when there's an active workspace. So add an API for allowing modules to mark their forms as workspace safe. That would be interesting for layout builder, because I feel like you should be able to submit changes to the layout section. Add a way to undo a workspace. Consider improving that. Let's search for uninstall. All right, I'm going to create the issue. Error when uninstalling workspaces after making content changes that were published. Bug report. Just want to get this in quick. Not workflows, workspaces. Let's trying out workspaces. Made a custom workspace and several content changes that were published. Deleted workspaces. Uninstalled the module. Got a WSOD, white screen of death, on uninstall. Let's copy the error message. Something tried to handle a deleted field and set type bundle column on node revision. All right, I'm just at least going to save that so it's captured and not lost forever. The site's not broken though. It just errored on the uninstall. So that's a good thing. So if we go back, we didn't have any loss of content. It's just Drupal tries to track deleted fields in the data. I'm pretty sure if we ran cron, that table would be deleted. So we got there. I'm curious what contrib modules we have, which is where, not browse repository. This is where the project browser proposal would be really handy, is finding things that work with or extend workspaces. Let's see. I want to go back and install this. Let's add it back. Wait a second. It thinks it's still installed. Oh, shoot. All right. So it didn't uninstall. It crashed. And my site's probably in a broken state right now. So that's the one thing with experimental modules, is it warns you. And this is one reason why it warns you. Deleted as delta, where entity table workspace is .null. Oh yeah. So if you use workspaces, don't try to uninstall it. If you're going to use it, so let's search for modules with workspace, and it works with, we'll just say any. We'll do search. Default content extras. Oh, this is going to be, let's just say it works with Drupal 9. Add manager workspace, that's not it. Expose status report. This is going to be workspace moderation. Search API workspaces. I feel like this is going to be way too hard to find modules that work with any of this. Let's see what this is for. Oh, does this actually work with the core Workspaces module? So maybe this is about Workspace. Let's see. Let's go browse the repository, info. No, at least not that I can tell. What does it do? Workspace moderation list builder. So it does work. It doesn't is shadow workspace. So it does. It just doesn't define its, what do you want to call it, dependencies correctly. So it changes the list builder class and does a few extras onto it. The shadow workspaces, search API workspace. So that's interesting. So provides a search API data source plugin, fields and filter to index workspace specific content entities. Includes focuses on inherited content from parent workspaces. So that'd be an interesting use case, is when you have search API to build product, like to build out full searches, but you need to include parent content. Route lock. What's this route lock? As a way to lock arbitrary Drupal routes on selected workspaces. So the categories are all the same. So it looks like Amazy is doing a bunch of work in workspaces. Let's search for, I think one was called entity workflow. Workflow, no. Workflow module, workflow widget. Actually, the best thing to do, if you want to find anything that's anything about that, you want to find works from Andre Matiscu, I think is his last name. I'm sorry if I butchered that. But everything that he commits to is going to be probably around workspaces. So CPS entity workflow. So it works with the CPS module in D7, but also workspaces in Drupal 8 to create an individual workflow for each entity within a site version. Allows a large site version to allow each piece of content to go through a workflow. Primarily an API set up the default workflow. So this may not be all the things that are going on. I want to see, list and count all the changes made in a workspace. That could be, I just want to see if there's any other things I see in here that look interesting. No. All right, so let's look at this. I know that was my one concern, is that some entity types do not have a list builder, but default operations are safe to generate for any entity type. That was one concern, is like when I made changes, I couldn't see anything that was there. So what I need to do is drop that database, because I broke my site trying to uninstall, which luckily all I have to do is just delete the file, go back and do quick start the Umami demo. Drupal is already installed. Oh, because it has a settings.php. Delete that. And I'm going to do suppress login. I'm going to do it with the standard site this time, just to make it a bit faster. Standard. And we're going to try out this patch. So I'm going to copy the link address, and we'll go into core. And I believe I should just be able to do curl, paste the URL, patch, and then P2. All right, and I did patch P2 because the patch assumes that in core, it's in, oh, I'm just pretty sure that's what I have to do when you have a composer workflow. I'm not going to pretend I know that I actually know what's going on, but that's what I've seen, and that's what I do. So we've now applied this patch. We've got the site available. Log into it, and let's try this patch out. So this would let us list all the counts and changes. So let's install the module. So we want to do Workspaces, install. And let's go straight to the default stage workspace. Let's create some content. First article. Oh, that lovely Bartik theme. Let's create another article, and I'm going to change it to, oh, I can't change it to be Olivero because we're not in the default workspace. So yeah, the development server just gets weird when run through the quick start command, it seems. So we'll just do it this way, which I have my history at 8080. There we go. Test article 2. All right. So if we go, let's see what happens if you direct link at it. Access denied. Okay. So access denied because it's in a workspace that's not published. Let's look at manage workspace. So we're able to see two content items changed. What if we created a menu link for them? So let's do menu links, provide menu link. Alias, let's do /foo. And if I edit article 2, menu setting, basic R2, alias is bar. When we get back, we're able to see everything in here. This is actually really cool. This is what I would want to see when working on this, is being able to go in and edit the path alias even. So I can edit the path alias. To custom menu links, I can edit the menu link. So yeah, that's really cool. And totally what I would expect to see out of this. So I'm going to take a screenshot of that. I'm going to click publish content. And now if I refresh the devs or the live site, we've got our articles there. So that's like critical in my opinion. I'm going to call it RTBC. And ran through this as a test and provides functionality that is pretty critical when using workspaces so that you know what you're actually publishing. Publishing was also nice, having shortcuts to quick edit review from the listing. So as Andre said in what was it, in 17? Why isn't it doing the, oh, 7? It's not 17. 7, not all entities have a list builder, but all have support for entity operations lists. Let's see here, and to upload that screenshot. And so like this is one, like if you ever want to like help contribute to core, this is what you could do. Is just test out a patch and see if it works. And you know, maybe there should be more people that +1 it before RTBC, but I'm just gonna go for it because we tested it, we ran through it. There's people watching that found it worked. So yeah, so I'm going to RTBC it and save. And there we go. So that would be neat if that gets in, because that's something I would totally expect to work out. Oh, I know one thing I didn't try is child workspaces yet. So let's check that out real quick. So let's do substage, stage. So it actually, just to get really silly and curious. All right. I have no idea what you do with all of these. So let's go to what happens if you just keep adding? We're going to get to Doge workspace and the foobar underneath Doge. All right. So it must just keep, we haven't hit the limit yet. But let's click on, became fotbar. So we're in this here. Let's go to content. And what happens when I publish? What happens in a sub workspace? So let's hit save. And merge content. So I wish there was a way to, what happens when I click merge? I don't want to do that. I want to be able to like, if I click on manage, okay, there we go. So clicking on manage brings me to here. So, but it doesn't let me merge it anymore. I feel like before, maybe this patch is what changed it. Oh yeah, so no, the edit. We'll click here. So we click merge content. So there are 2 items that can be merged from fotbar to Doge. So then we go to that, and if we click switch, we can do merge content. So now you can bubble it all up. Okay, so it is like a Git workflow where you can merge content up or down, merge into stage, or you can just bubble up. Okay, so you can take content and bubble it up to a parent, which now, okay, so the sub stage has these 2 changes to basic article 1. If I went to stage and I tried to edit test article 1, it gives me an error because it's being worked in that sub workspace. So what I guess you could do then, what that allow you to do is if you have your stage in workspaces, you would have, so I don't have multiple users here, but you could say author one, and then assign that to your one author, and the parent is stage. So every author could have their own workspace underneath stage, but then nobody would be able to edit. Then maybe you could restrict them from making changes on the staging environment. That would be really interesting to see how that works. I wish there was a good list of all the contrib that you could use here, like to prevent editing of content on the live site. So if I went to live, I would want edit to not be possible. I guess you could do that another way. So let's try that out. Let's write that as a quick module. I'll actually name this one something relevant this time. So let's create a new file. We're going to call it Workspaces restrictions, or we're going to call it Workspaces no live. And let's go here and we'll do info.yaml to create that. And again, it's name Workspaces no live. I like to be a lazy person, so I copy and paste so I don't have to type. And I bet we could do it as simple as new file.module. And if we did function workspace, function workspaces no live entity access, this is actually probably really easy. So if operation is not equal to view, well, let's see the documented ones. The operation should only be view, update, or delete, but I'm pretty sure view label is one. So we're going to actually just say, like, if operation is equal to update or operation is equal to delete, turn there. What is it what we expect? Return access result interface. So we're going to do return access result neutral. So by default, we want to have a neutral. We don't care unless it's inside of here. So we'll get the workspaces manager, which is Drupal. We'll do git container for the autocomplete workspaces manager. So if workspaces manager has active workspace, or wait, is the live considered a workspace? I would assume so. I actually don't know. Is live a workspace? The use case might be possible to solve with the config ignore module if you're able to set a constraint on the workspace name. Ooh. Is this one that makes you ignore config if you're editing? So maybe, I bet you could. So config ignore. I wonder if you could wire this up with that as well. Do not ignore. So config ignore causes you to ignore config from being exported but not edited. Okay, so it does prevent you from saving forms in production. So yeah, you could do that. That would be one thing, but that doesn't stop content. So that's where we're going to see. So if it has a active workspace, so if we're going to try this out. So return access result forbidden if or we'll say allowed if has active workspace. Let's say that's not null, so it stops having a warning at me. So let's go ahead and install this module. And workspace is no live. So, and then while that, I'm going to get this code repository open and look at that next. So workspace is no live. If I go here, that's not stopping me. So we're going to do some good old Drupal messenger add status has active workspace. So is it not catching here? Let's see if I've got... yes. All right. So that's an old command. So PHP D. So I have a very old command here that turns on Xdebug with the built-in router. And we're going to use that. So I'm going to refresh this page. And accept. All right. So operation is view. Go here. Operation is view. View. Now, I thought it checked. Oh, because we're on a view. We're not on a, let's click edit. Operation use. That's the filter format. So there was view label. Well, I'm slightly confused here because I would have thought that this would hit something. Let's rearrange this a bit. So if workspaces module entity is supported, we'll do entity get entity type. Let's move this code up into here. We can delete that line. This is getting kind of messy. Let's just... All right, so I guess it must be blocked before we're even getting there. So let's click edit. I'm so confused as to why this isn't being invoked when we land on the page, because it should be. So invoke entity access. Let's see. This is why I use Xdebug all the time, is like, I don't know why. I could sit and try to figure out why it's not working, but this is just a lot easier. Workspaces entity access. Let's go into here. I bet that entity type. Oh, so entity type is, so it doesn't have an active workspace. So this is returning neutral. So Workspaces no live entity access. Hook args use. That's we're in filter format, man. Where's the entity filter format? User block. All right, turn off that breakpoint. I'm so confused why we're not hitting an entity access check on this route. When we should be. Well, that is kind of ruining my fun there. Yeah, we should be able to disallow access there, but it's not working at all like I would assume. It's not called for listings. So that, yeah, that makes sense. If we go to structure, I'm going to turn that off. And then we go to taxonomy. List terms. Yeah, that's wild. Like I would assume if entity type is supported, workspaces module, workspaces create entity access, create access. So our function ran there. Return. But again, it's a stupid filter format. Like I don't want the filter format. I want taxonomy. Well, my plan didn't work there. Where I was hoping we could disable it, but I don't like. I don't know. I guess in here it would need to be for the create access to lock down. Sorry, for being able to lock down creating content on a live site. It's going to be more convoluted than I thought. To be able to check that out. So that's that. I don't know if anybody. Oh shoot! Let me stop that. See, I just want a quick look at maybe any of the other issues that are in here. Elevate the workspaces UI around the site canvas. Improve visual indication of active workspaces in the listing scenes, in the listing UI. Issues. So overall, this looks really, like it looks really useful. Oh, my cat's trying to get in the room. It looks extremely useful. And 1 second. Sorry about that. Looks extremely useful, and I would love to see it come out of a beta life cycle. Let's see what it needs review. Add API. So this one would be huge for layout builder. to be able to work. Oh, let's see. There's even the linked issue. Layout builder overrides on a single content item not allowed in stage when using workspaces. There's the backspace or the backport. So there's a ton of issues, and this looks like a great way to contribute to core is to work on some of these. Cannot create entity with image in non-default workspace. Oh, maybe this is the error I was experiencing. Create an article with an image attached. I was getting a 500 error. It could have been due to this issue. But either way, it's really cool. I hope that you learned something neat about workspaces and how it all works today, and that you found some interesting use cases for it. I'm going to sign off now, and I hope everybody has a great weekend and hope you enjoyed this. See ya.